Now we're going to do surface area of a cylinder. Recently we have been doing surface area of several different three-dimensional shapes, but this time our three-dimensional shape doesn't necessarily always have a flat surface, like say our rectangular prism or our triangular prism or even our pyramids all have flat surfaces. If you look at this three-dimensional cylinder that I have right here, it has a top and a bottom that are both flat, but then it has this edge around the outside that is curvy. And so that curve actually we are going to find the surface area of, but we're going to have to use a little trick in order to do that. So as you can see here, we have three surfaces. We have a top, that's a circle. We have a bottom, that's a circle. And then we have this outer curved edge. Now, I have a paper cylinder here that might help you see this a little bit better. My paper cylinder has the top and the bottom that are circular, but when I open it up like this, you can see that it has these three surfaces, the top and the bottom that are circles, but look what shape this outer edge opens up to. It opens up to a parallelogram or a rectangle. So our three different faces are two circles and a rectangle. And so we're going to write that down right here on our note sheet. Three faces, circles, and rectangle. Now we know and have already worked with our area formulas, and we know the area of a circle is pi r squared. And we also have worked with rectangles, and we know that that is length times width. So let's do an example. Now normally you would be given the numbers on the shape. So I'm going to put for the radius 5 meters. And I'm going to put for the height, which is the other piece of information we need, 6 meters. And if you have these two things, you can find the whole surface area of this cylinder, the top, the bottom, and around the outside. Now the radius, if you picture our cylinder all closed up here, the radius is going to go through the center of the circle. And so it would be going right straight through here is where that 5 would be. And so let's use that and find the area of our circle. So the formula for area of a circle is pi r squared. In this case, r is 5. And we know that 5 squared is 25. And usually we put the coefficient up front and the symbol second. So we're going to write that as 25 pi. Now, as we talked about, there's two circles. There's a top and a bottom. And the cool thing about this cylinder is that they're the same. So for two circles, that would just be 25 pi plus 25 pi, which is 50 pi. And don't forget your units. Your units are in meters, so this is going to be meters squared. All right, now the rectangle. Our rectangle is a little bit trickier. And our rectangle, I'm going to actually put our cylinder right off the screen, and I'm going to pull this rectangle right here. Okay? Now if you picture our cylinder as it closes and it opens up, okay? This distance right here, this is the height of that cylinder. So this height is the 6 meters. All right, so if the area of a rectangle is length times width, how are we going to get this length right here? And you might see it as I close this up once again. If I close this up once again, and if you look at this, that edge right here is the length of our rectangle. Well, the edge, how do you get the edge of a circle? You get the edge of a circle by finding circumference. So when you're doing rectangle, the area is length times width. The length is circumference. And we know from our formula sheet that circumference is 2 pi r. Well, width, in this case, is the height of our cylinder. So let's go back to our picture once again. This 6 was the height. This distance along the length, the outer edge, is circumference, which is 2 pi r. So we're going to multiply that as our length times width, and that will be the area of all of this rectangular area, which is, again, this cylinder's curvy edge. Okay? So 2 pi r times the height. Well, we know r, it's 5. And we know the height, it's 6. So what you might want to do up here in your sheet, this length times width turns into 2 pi r times height. And you will be expected to know that. Now, do you need to know the formula by heart? No, you have the circumference formula on your formula sheet. But you need to know to use it in order to replace the length. Okay? All right, so once you figure out the formula for that, and that's the trick that I was talking about, well, then it's really easy to do the math. 5 times 6, we know that that's 30, so this is 2 pi and 30. And twice 30 is just 60, so this ends up being 60 pi. And again, it's in meters, so meters squared. So I've got this area, 60 pi. And then up here from our circle, I have 50 pi. And together, the total surface area is going to be the two added together. 50 pi plus 60 pi is 110 pi. And again, with the meters squared. Now, what if, this is if they ask you in terms of pi. This is in terms of pi. What if they ask you for it to the nearest hundredth? Well, once you've done it, because they both have pi in them, so you can put it all together until the end, you're going to take a calculator. If they ask you to the nearest hundredth and it's got pi in it, you're going to have a calculator for the test. Okay? And so on your calculator, you're going to type in 110, and there's a pi button right here. It is 3 buttons down from the second key. Do you see that? So you're going to hit the pi button, and as you can see on your screen, you now have a pi in there, and when they're sitting side by side, that just means to multiply. Hit enter, and it's going to give you your decimal, 345.575. Well, that second 5 right there, that's going to make this 7 round up. So it's going to be 345.58 meters squared. So this would be nearest 100th. So it depends on the question and what you're going to write down for your final answer and how you're going to answer that question. So I hope that helps. Feel free to rewind it again, but just to recap really fast, I have my cylinder has two circles, one on the top and one on the bottom. So I just used the circle formula, and I got 25 pi. And then once I did that, because there's a top and a bottom right here, top, bottom, well then I know that it's going to be 50 pi. Now the rectangle, however, that's the little bit trickier piece. The length and the width turn into circumference times height. This is the formula for circumference, and that H stands for height. So when you do that, once you figure that formula out, this is the key right here. That's the trick. Then you can easily plug in the numbers, and we got 60 pi. Add them all together, you have your total surface area. So I hope this helps. You're going to be doing more practice with these as well as all the other shapes that we've been doing all along the way. And so you can ask me questions tomorrow. And I'm so glad that you watched your video to prepare for class. You're really taking an investment in your own learning, and that is powerful. Have a great day.